everybody.
Hi, everyone. Ed Bixby here from the Global Green Burial Alliance with my co-host Gretchen Spletzer and a very dear friend of ours today with some exciting news. So Gretchen, take it away.
Hi. Yes, we are here. We're having our spotlight with Wilka Roig. She opened a green burial cemetery in Mexico in Sembrando Nuevo Vida in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. So we worked with her a couple years back, and we also did a panel with her on the Beautiful Dying Expo. I follow her work on Facebook, and she's been just doing all kinds of great things. We wanted to introduce our audiences to Wilka and her work, and she has a great bio with a lot of good stuff. So I encourage everybody to go to wilkaroig.com. Is it? It's .com, and look up her about stuff because she has done some fascinating studies, and I'll just read a little bit here. So Wilka Roig holds a Master of Art in Transpersonal Psychology, specializing in creativity and innovation, and a Master's of Fine Art specializing in photography. She holds a Professional Dream Worker certification from the Marin Institute for Projective Dream Work. She's also been president of the Mexican branch of the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation. She has studied with Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estés, Gabor Maté in Passionate Inquiry. She's associated with Anelda, just a whole bunch of great stuff. She's a wonderful resource to be connected to. So welcome, Wilka, and thanks for coming on today.
Really Thank you for the invitation, and it's wonderful to reconnect with both of you. And, you know, I just want to say that when I had no idea how to make this dream come true, you know, you were there and we did some wonderful work together, and I learned a lot, and I'm so grateful that today we can say it was, what, 3 years ago that we met?
Yes.
A little over maybe. And yeah, it's amazing.
I know.
So thank you for doing what you do. Yes.
Thank you very much, Wilka. And so the audience knows, I mean, Wilka did some very heavy lifting, you know, within her country and in Central America, and now delving down into South America. And this is the kind of inspiration that we all need, because it's necessary to do that heavy lifting. So Wilka, if you don't mind, you could let us know a little bit about the project you were working on there in San Miguel, and how that's all worked out for you.
Yes. So, you know, the sort of the restlessness about a desperate need for green burial started for me personally in 2020. And, you know, trying to understand what the laws were and how to work with that and around that to be able to make it possible was the biggest challenge, right? And here in Mexico, there are 2 or 3, they call themselves bosques, which is like forests, you know, for green burial. But really what they're doing, and I'm not saying it's not great, but they're cremating and then burying ashes with trees. And the biggest challenge for us in Mexico had to do with how do we sort of return to the way things were and make it possible to be buried in a shroud or wrapped in a petate, which is the traditional way of many of the peoples in this country. And so what actually happened was really quite interesting. I did a lot of investigation. My team helped with all of that to see where could we do it, because the thing in Mexico is that we have federal law, state law, and municipal law. And each of those has a level of jurisdiction on the laws of burial. And sometimes they may align and coincide to allow it, and sometimes they may not. But what I discovered after, you know, much effort was that there are ways in which it can be defended, the right to have a burial in the way that, you know, that your tradition or your conviction requires. And so we worked from that angle, and then we worked from the environmental angle, which is wonderful, because the thing about Green Burial is that it's so many things. It addresses so many different concerns, right? From customs and traditions for us, because it is something that was alive not too long ago, to social concerns, environmental concerns, and then urban planning concerns. There's so many angles from which we can take this, right? So we observed and explored all of those. And the first burial, actually, which was not in this cemetery, was because there was a woman who I was accompanying in her dying. And she said, you know, stop beating around the bush and figure it out, because I want to be buried green. And I will support you in whatever happens next. But you need to, you know, I need to be the first one, not because she wanted to be the first one, but because that was her conviction and that was her belief. She wanted to contribute that, you know. Mm-hmm. So I was put on the hot seat there because she wasn't going to die until I found her a way. And so that's what led me to start thinking about it from a different angle, because I kept looking at it from the top down. Right. And that's when I started to think about the different benefits that we could, you know, have as a community, as a society, with the, you know, the other. It's not just about burial, right? Even though it is about, it's not just about our remains, is what I'm saying.
It's about ritual. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And traditions and
tradition,
community. Yeah. So then I discovered so much about the history of the lands that belong to the original peoples in this country, and how their rights for their own burial grounds had been taken away. And so I started to think, oh, we can go through that, from, you know, through that angle of defending the rights of them having those lands. And so we were able to find a burial site that was still not taken away from a community. And then we were able to look at customs and traditions. And all of these things together came so that we could do the first green burial. Like, and we're talking about authentically green burial, right? It was within a space where all manner of burial was happening. So I can't tell you it was like a pristine space, but it was perfect for that first burial. And then from there, we started having events for more consciousness raising on the topic. And then that's how we started to connect with the environmental, you know, the municipal environmental, whatever you call it. And then, in fact, it was the private sector that approached me to say, we're interested, we have land, let's do it.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's so great. And so then when it happened, was it warmly embraced by the community and lots of outside interest too from other parts, you know, other communities around your community too?
Yeah, you know, it's been an interesting thing, because our community is one that feels very passionate about this. Well, I mean, I've been talking about it for however long, you know, since we met. And so people now are just waiting for, when is this going to be available to us, right? So there are certain different populations who have been waiting for it. There's a broader warming up that we still have to do with the collective to, you know, to make more room for this as an option that everybody could have access to. And so that's the next step for us. But our partner, who is this cemetery, is completely on board. And so I think it's going to still be, it's still a work in progress, but at least we have a site.
Well, go ahead, Ed.
Oh, no problem. No, I was going to say that's wonderful. I mean, and what I like to point out to our audience is Wilka's sentiments that, you know, it isn't only about the remains of an individual. It's about the community. It's about the respect. It's about the honor. It's about a place of happiness and memory. So kudos to you, because that's really the element that most people don't see. And once you can convey that, they seem to come along. Go ahead, Gretchen. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh, well, just to say what you said. Yeah, it's just about, I always say it's not one moment, it's a process, and the green burial gives that opportunity to families so well. Yeah, now I forgot what I was going to ask you.
Sorry.
Well, I'll say something quickly, because what we have seen, and we keep learning about it as we do it, right? So having involved the reforestation program of our municipality into this was like the best thing ever, right? So there is a very strong committed investment in ecological restoration and in the importance of that for this country and for globally. And so that connection really has served in so many ways, because now we are developing a program of healing through grief in nature that includes like a volunteer support for maintaining reforestation sites and the green burial site. And then, so there's a direct connection sorry, my language sometimes fails me, healthy grieving and, green burial and working with nature and
connecting to nature.
Yes. So that's been really amazing.
That's wonderful. And let me ask you this, because Wilka, you've really become quite the ambassador, for Central and South America, and we have been following you quite a bit in your travels. So can you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to and what might be coming down the pipeline in other places?
Yes, of course. So when at first I felt unable to achieve green burial here, the real, the authentically green, I call it that, I don't know what else to call it, where people are being buried directly into the ground with just some kind of shroud, whatever. And then also considering all of these things of not putting foreign objects in there, all of those things. I thought, well, maybe if I can't start it in Mexico, I'll start it somewhere else, right? So wherever we can begin it, let's go. And since I was doing some work in Guatemala, I connected in Guatemala with a pretty large cemetery that also has the mission of doing land conservation. They are like a traditional cemetery, but it's tons and tons of land. And so I started conversations with them, and they started to realize that in a way, they started doing green burial with COVID. They didn't know what they were doing, but it kind of qualifies is not the word, is it? As green burial. And so they were very excited. And so I went back to work with them a little bit more. And then other things happened, so we haven't followed up. But there's the potential that now that's also going to be happening there. And then a year and a half ago, with the first 4 doulas of Latin America, we have been meeting and connecting since 2018, more or less. And we finally founded the Red Latinoamericana de Acompañamiento en la Muerte y el Duelo, which is the Latin American network of accompaniment in grief and death, more or less. And it's basically meant to identify who are all the leaders and pioneers in this movement to evolve our death culture in general in all of Latin America. And so we have been, connecting more people, and the intention of that is coming together. We had our first encounter or gathering in Quito, Ecuador last April, and we're going to have the second one in Mexico. Maybe you think about coming over here. And the idea is that the leaders get together, present what's going on in their countries in all of these areas, like legally and, with the different advancements with, like, let's say, medical aid in dying or advanced directives, which is not yet considered in many countries as a legal right to have that. Anything, all of these things. And then, of course, including green burial and, what are the schools, who's teaching, what are they doing in terms of all of these different things of that, anything to do with end of life or grief. And so in that space, I started talking about green burial so that our, colleagues all over Latin America begin to consider this as a possibility in their countries. And so we do all the presentations, and then we do like focus groups, I guess you would call them, or like work tables. I don't know what you would call them. And then the people who are interested in green burial, we get together and we start talking about what's going on, how can we help each other, the different advancements that each of the countries have achieved, then the rest of us learn from each other, And so that's the purpose of that. And so, of course, this raises awareness about green burial everywhere.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, if any of us, Ed or myself, or any of our colleagues on the board can help you guys anytime, reach out
oh, thank
because
you.
yeah, we would love to support you still. And
Thank you.
it sounds like a lot of stuff is beginning to sprout now. That's great.
Yes.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. This is all wonderful news. I mean,
Mhm.
like Gretchen said, if there's any way that the Global Green Burial Alliance can help, certainly always reach out to us. Matter of fact, Wilka, we may even like to speak to you at a later date about maybe creating a way that our Spanish-speaking members can we're putting out everything in English at the moment, and maybe a collaboration might be really important and necessary. So I
Yes.
know you
Yeah,
might.
that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you would be the person, believe me, that we would come to because I feel like we're all doing this for the right reasons. You know, it's not about the money and it's about the environment, but it's really about the people. You know, ultimately it's about the people, and that's what's most important, our families. So I do thank you for participating today. Please do encourage anyone that you may know to become a pledge member of the Global Green Burial Alliance. Anyone who is a product provider or a funeral director or a just a consumer that is in line with our thought process. Please take the pledge. And Gretchen, if you have any final thoughts or anything for Wilka?
Yeah, well, I would just like to invite you to one of our hour-long forums where we focus on South America and get a little deeper dive into what you're starting to talk about because it sounds really exciting. And I just want to add too, part of the satisfaction of this is that it is a growing movement. And that is always satisfying when you work so hard at something and you're seeing it, flower really. So
Yes.
yeah. Well, thank you, Wilka.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm gonna say goodbye and we'll be in touch about getting together down the road and we'll be talking soon. Thanks everybody
Sounds great. Thank
Yeah.
you.